Welcome everybody to Sportsline, a very special edition of Sportsline. I'm John Burton, happy to have you with us here on NewsChannel 5+. And as you know, if you follow this show, and I know you do, we talk a lot of professional wrestling on this show. I'm a big pro wrestling fan, as is our producer, Taylor Prey. I actually did some independent wrestling work, two-time mid-card winner at NWA East in Pittsburgh. But enough about me, because we have a very special guest in studio tonight, because Impact Wrestling is coming home, folks. January 6th at the old Asylum, where it all began, a big pay-per-view spectacular coming up, and a huge card. You can either get it on pay-per-view or you can watch it in person. And one of the people you're going to be able to see on that card is my guest in studio, one of the best professional wrestlers and sports entertainers around, whether he's Johnny Nitro, Johnny Mundo, John Morrison, but in Impact Wrestling, he's known as Johnny Impact. Johnny, how are you, man? Happy holidays. Great to see you.
You're looking great.
You look like $1 million, man. You brought LA to Nashville.
Wearing sunglasses inside will do that, let me tell you. And I think I probably am the wrestler with the most John-based ring names in the history of wrestling. It's hard to find that little niche, the one thing that you can say you have that no one else does. But for me, yeah, that's it.
I was gonna say, man, did you sometimes have trouble keeping track of all your nicknames, all the Johnnies?
Sometimes wrestlers have a hard time keeping track of what city they're in. But yeah, for me, sometimes it is the which Johnny am I today?
Yeah.
And I definitely want to hear more about your wrestling career.
Well,
we're gonna have to get into that too.
Yeah, well, you sure about that? Because it's not a very long story to tell, but we will get into that. But first of all, you've been in Impact Wrestling for a little while now. You've wrestled for all the major companies. You've been overseas. You've been everywhere. What has your experience been like so far at Impact Wrestling?
Man, I've resisted coming to Impact Wrestling for a while. I had talked to Dixie and a couple people not too long after I left WWE, and I just didn't feel like it was the right time for me. And now I've been at Impact for just over a year, and I've been super impressed with the people behind the scenes and the current roster especially. To me, one of the things that is uniquely Impact is, we were talking about movies earlier,
right.
So I'll make a movie analogy.
Sure.
Impact Wrestling a lot of times feels like an independent film where everybody involved in front of the camera, the talent, the wrestlers behind the scenes, really has to pull their own weight.
Sure.
This is a company where you get creative autonomy, but you're also given responsibility. So it feels like when we finish our TV tapings, like everybody has accomplished something together, right. And that's something that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm friends with a lot of people that have worked for WWE and/or Impact Wrestling. The difference, they say, is what you talk about, creative autonomy. You're not as, let's just say, you're not as micromanaged, but you have to, as you said, hold up your end of the bargain. If your character is a certain way, you're expected to do certain things, and you're expected, when the lights go on, you got to deliver, right? Yeah,
there's not as many checks and balances as there would be with a company like WWE or a blockbuster movie, for example. Take Justice League, for example. I visited the set of Justice League. A buddy of mine was Dublin Affleck, and he was on that movie for he said altogether 18 months.
Wow.
And at the end of it, he was like, it was great, like the money was great, but damn it, it was like soul sucking. You know what I mean? Because you're there, and like some days like you're moving pads, some days you're doing nothing, and then guy's name is Spider, one of the most talented stunt guys and guys in movement that I know. And then some days like he would do some of the coolest stuff ever, but those days were few and far between. And with Impact, it's like that's every day. Like you do the coolest stuff ever, the coolest stuff you can think of. You get that opportunity every TV taping and every show, and that's the difference.
You had a good run at WWE, won a lot of major championships there. What was your experience like overall? We talked about some of the micromanaging and some of the things that goes on, but when you're in WWE, we all know that's Vince McMahon's baby. He has final say over everything, and it's his deal. What was the experience like for you?
I really enjoyed my time at WWE. I won the WWE Tag Team Championships multiple times, the Intercontinental Championship, the ECW World Championship, and a lot of times found ways to get the creative autonomy that you didn't necessarily get on Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah.
A good example of that is the Dirt Sheet. When I was tagging up with The Miz.
Oh man, those were great.
Yeah, we had so much fun.
How did you get that past Vince McMahon?
Well,
and creative.
We went through the digital side of people. So we did the show for WWE.com.
Yeah, you guys were on the cutting edge of that because that was before, like, YouTube got big and social media and Facebook Live and all that kind of stuff. You guys kind of pioneered all that. That's all right. We'll get somebody to clean that up.
All right. Taylor, maybe you. Yeah, I'll take credit for that. We pioneered everything.
There you go.
And I. But that's like something that we wrote together while we were riding from town to town, and when we got to our Raw or SmackDown taping, wherever we were going, it was really it was on us to make it happen. And when it's on you, you get to be the boss and you get to call the shots. I mean, kind of like you with this show.
Oh, I don't know about that. I got a lot of people telling me what to do.
You get to call some shots. You're calling shots. We're talking wrestling, and it's a sports show.
That is the one thing, and you and I talked about that. The fact that they give me the autonomy to really talk about what I love, which is professional wrestling. That's why it's such an honor to have you here in studio. But Impact Wrestling obviously was born here in Nashville, a brainchild of the Jarrett family, and it's grown. It's been through a lot of changes, a lot of ups and downs that we know. But the fact that,
I'll say like something about Impact that, like, from my perspective, because when I was first aware of Impact, I was in the WWE bubble.
Sure.
And it's a company that always fascinated me because the performers like AJ Styles and I mean Elix, Skipper, Samoa Joe, like I thought were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And as time went on, it had its ups and downs. And at this point, I feel like Impact has taken more punches than maybe any other promotion in existence. It's been knocked down. People have talked trash about it, but but
you guys keep going.
It's still going. Yeah, it's not. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's still here. And now I feel like this iteration of Impact Wrestling has got the most talented roster that I feel like the company has ever had. And we've shed a lot of those negative connotations. And since we started in Nashville, before I was here, it's kind of like Nashville is the heart and soul of Impact from day one. Right. It feels really cool to be able to come back to not only Nashville but the Asylum, the specific place.
To me, that is the coolest part of all, because you guys could have played, you guys could have done Bridgestone, you could have done Municipal Odd, but to go back to the Asylum, the Fairgrounds, where it all started. How cool is that? Even though, like I said, you were in that WWE bubble when it all started, but I'm sure you've learned a lot about the history of this company and, like you said, the ups and downs and everything that's happened. To go back there for a pay-per-view, a big pay-per-view, it's got to be pretty cool.
I mean, wrestling is a lot about nostalgia, you know, and when I watch wrestling, even today, a lot of times I get beamed back to Little Johnny Impact. And when I was watching guys like Macho Man and watching Raw on Saturdays and trying to put my buddies into camel clutches and Boston crabs on the front yard, going back to the Asylum feels so good because there's these diehard fans of Impact Wrestling that have been there since 2002, since the tapings were beginning, and it feels really good to be able to come back specifically to the building and to Nashville and return to those people that really helped launch Impact Wrestling.
This is going to be a great card as well. I mean, there's some big top-level stars on there. Obviously, yourself.
Top-level stars and big Brian Cage.
Yeah, talk about that guy. Where the heck did they find that guy?
A gym. They found him at the gym. If you ever want to know where he's either at catering or the gym, or both, or he's got Tupperware and at the gym.
Right. He's that classic, eat every 2.5, 3 hours.
He like the machine thing is true. Yeah. He eats every 2.3 hours. He works out twice a day. He's got his macros mapped out. He's got his workout charts. He's impressive. He's in my opinion the strongest guy on the Impact roster, and in addition to that, he can do things that a man of his size has no business being able to do, like the flips and the springboards and the things that he can do outside of his power game are phenomenal.
I liked what they did with him when they brought him in. They just had him. It was almost like a Goldberg type of situation. He just goes in, destroys whoever is in his path, and then leaves. And then he had that little thing going with Lashley right before Lashley left to go back to the WWE. And Lashley did a nice job, I thought, putting him over. But you said it. This guy's an impressive athlete for as big and as muscular and as strong as he is. I mean, what kind of challenge is that going to be going up against a guy like him in a pay-per-view match?
This is going to be be a serious challenge. And if it was a bench press contest, Brian Cage would win that. If it was going to be a brain press contest, though, I think Johnny Impact might take that one. Don't want to dumb shame Brian, though. I mean, there might be some millennials watching this that wouldn't like that. But the fact of the matter is you're right. Like it's going to be a huge challenge at homecoming, and I'm looking at it as motivation.
Yeah.
You know, like Brian and I have wrestled all over the world. I've beat him, and he's beat me, and I know that for me to beat Brian, I have to be on top of my game, and I can't make any mistakes.
Right. But that's kind of been your game as a wrestler. I mean, flawless, no mistakes, everything, you know, everything you do in the ring is so smooth and so it looks effortless. They say the great ones make it look easy. You make it look easy in the ring, my man.
I hope you're watching this, Brian. I hope you're listening to this.
But I mean, you
think I'm in trouble. You're in trouble.
You have such a unique skill set, you know, with your athleticism. I know you've done, you know, stuff like parkour and all that kind of stuff, man. Where did you develop your style as a wrestler? Because it's so unique.
You know, the first place I developed it was watching. You know, Macho Man, Shawn Michaels, Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. All those guys influenced who I wanted to be when I first started, and a big game changer for me happened when I started getting into parkour. There's that movie District B13 with David Bell, Cyril Raffaetti, and it was like the first time that parkour was captured in a movie. It was a French movie in a movie, and I was rapt by that thing. I was like dumbfounded by the types of things that those guys were doing, and then I started training parkour, and now it's like if you want to learn anything, there's tutorials. It's all over the internet.
Yeah.
But
you can find anything on the internet.
Yeah.
The other day I looked up how to cook salmon. No lie.
Really?
It's on there. Yeah. Because I like salmon, but I never cooked it right. But enough about me. Back to you.
No, I'm not cooking salmon.
I'll tell you what.
Brian Cage knows how to cook salmon. I'll tell you that.
That's right. Brian Cage is going to be taking on Johnny Impact January 6th at the Asylum. Big pay-per-view. Impact Wrestling Homecoming. We're going to take a break, come back, and we're going to talk more with Johnny about this big pay-per-view coming up and how he got his start in professional wrestling. And we're going to dive more into this parkour thing. I think I'm a little too old for it, but might be something you may want to try.
Never say never,
Stick
especially
around.
in wrestling.